confidence. Once you reach that confidence where you feel like you're the best player on the floor, which I had at one point, I felt, even though, and when I probably wasn't when I went up against Kobe and LeBron and Tim Duncan, but
you had that confidence.
You couldn't tell me, you couldn't tell me that I wasn't going to be the best player on the court that night.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast, where we interview coaches and leaders to find out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Becoming the best version of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Today we're joined by one of the greatest point guards in NBA history, Deron Williams. I had the pleasure of playing with Deron at the Colony High School. Deron went on to have a great college career at the University of Illinois, leading them to the national championship game in 2005. He was selected third in the 2005 NBA draft to the Utah Jazz. Deron was a three-time NBA All-Star and a two-time Olympic gold medal winner. Before we hear from Deron, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast. Well, man, hey, I just want to first thank you so much for doing this with me, giving up your time. You and I've been able to see you I think twice in the last 20 years. The first was at the golf course up at Tahoe when I was hanging out with Romo. You were walking by. It was very random. And then outside of the Mavs locker room, kind of you walking through. So, but that's been it for us, though.
I know. It's crazy.
Yep.
How's life?
That's good, man. I can't complain. Coaching, married to an awesome lady and got a good family. So, and then I'm just trying to do this podcast thing where I get to talk with great basketball minds about different things. And golly, what's better than talking to you? So, so I coached at McKinney High School for 5 years, and I was a varsity assistant. The head coach there, Wes Watson. We drive past the Colony, and he would say, Matt, do we want to go stop by and see your statue outside the Colony High School? And I would tell him, I was like, Coach, that's my statue, which never existed, was smashed by the statue of Deron Williams, the greatest Colony Cougar of all time. So I hope you know that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. With your playing career, you've been able to be around some amazing leaders, some amazing coaches. So what were a few things that some of those special coaches did that you really appreciated or got a lot of from, and maybe around the way of culture and how they handled a team in a locker room?
Yeah, I had a chance to play, like you said, for a lot of coaches, a lot of different styles, a lot of different personalities. And so I feel like there's definitely things that there's pluses and minuses to everybody. Everybody had their things that I feel like helped me tremendously, and there was things that bothered me. And so and I've talked about this with Jerry Sloan. He's probably the greatest coach I've ever played for, and he had just a knack for getting guys to play hard, to play tough, to follow his system, and he had some rules, off the court that I just didn't really love and didn't agree with at the time. But like I said, I've talked about this now where I kind of realized the culture he was trying to build and the reason why he was doing some of those things. When at the time, when you're 21, 22, 23 years old, you just don't understand. You just feel like he's just being, a dictator or difficult or whatever. It's kind of like Coach Thomas with his earring rule that only applied to 3 people.
That's right.
I still give him crap like that.
He never once had to tell me about not to wear earrings. I just that wasn't going to happen. But The funny thing is he had a no tattoo thing also. But a year or two after I came back, all of a sudden you and Bracey, man, there were tattoos around, and it was a little different.
We didn't have tattoos in high school.
No?
No, my mom would let me. My mom would let me. So literally the first, and see, here's the thing. It's probably a bad thing because her not allowing me made me want to do it even more. I probably would have never even got a tattoo.
There's a parenting lesson there for sure.
Oh, 100%. But I at this point, I don't care.
Yeah.
Kids can do whatever they want.
Yeah. but that's interesting. So I mean, being so
This is
young,
water. This is water, by the way. It's not a beer. It looks like a beer. I've never drank a beer in my life.
Darren, I'm so glad you just said that because yeah, I totally thought here's this guy just I mean
It's called
yeah.
liquid. It's called Liquid Death. I don't know if you can see that, but it's. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but it's good water from
That's all
Yop.
right. I don't know who's going to watch it anyway, so it's not. So, and it's an interesting name for a water, Liquid
Liquid
Death.
Death. Yeah, it's like murder your thirst is
But just so we're all clear, for the 5 people that will watch this, Darren is not drinking a
not
beer.
because it kind of looks like a.
Oh, it
Okay.
totally did. I
Yeah.
mean, for the very first time, I was like, okay, well, that's cool. I mean, I'm glad he's that comfortable with me to do that.
Oh, I mean, if, I don't.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with beer anyways.
No,
But.
no doubt. That's funny. So you're 21, 22, 23, playing with a guy like Jerry Sloan. So what were some of the things that he did that you did admire that, I mean, you wouldn't mind sharing with coaches today that might help them with their teams?
Yeah, I mean, he just, he was very old school, right? So um, he was tough about his rules and the things that the way he wanted things done, and we were always a very good executing team, and the amount of detail and the amount of times that we would go over an offense and plays is incredible. I mean, we started out every practice the same way. It was always with the same drills, offensive drills.
How does he keep you focused when you're at the level that you're at? Like, you're such a good player. How do you stay focused through that?
I mean, it was a lot of it was full court stuff. So it kind of you got your conditioning in it as well. So it was a lot of fun, I think. And then also he did, which I've never had happen with any other coach, is that he would make us play different positions. So like sometimes I would play the 5 or play the 4. Sometimes Carlos Boozer would bring the ball down because he wanted everybody to know every position so that you knew exactly where everybody was supposed to be. You knew how to
I've never
screen.
heard that before. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a reason why we were such a good offensive executing team is because we always knew exactly where we're supposed to be.
Yeah, not just like as a point guard like you were, not that just you knew where they were supposed to be. You actually knew what it felt like to be there in those shoes. I mean, it just gives you a deeper understanding of what he's trying to have you do.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. What about so off the court? Yeah, there are definitely some rules, but like within an NBA locker room, I mean, you guys are all professionals. You're adults at that point too, but at different ages. What were some things that you felt like made either Utah or anywhere that you played a unique culture, something that you appreciated even later on?
See, that's the thing about like when you're in the NBA, it's not much of that. That's more done on your own, and I think that's more about the team, like the individual teams and individuals on the team. And so we were actually a really close team in Utah when I was there, and so I would actually I always did like a Halloween party that kind of kicked off the year because it's October. It's like right before the season starts or around when the season starts. And so I'd get everybody together at my house and we'd have a costume party, Halloween party, things like that. You go to dinner with guys, with a group of guys. And, I think that's the things that you have to do on your own. Whereas in college, you're going over to the coach's house, you're always doing things as a team. You're going
mandatory
out,
fun,
party.
mandatory fun
Exactly.
in college. Yeah,
exactly. In the NBA, it's some guys they're going home to their families. They got wives, they got kids. They want to spend time with them, and so it's a little different.
Man, being a part of so many teams, and like you said, some of your Utah teams were really close. What makes a great team culture?
Well, I think good leadership, first and foremost. I think honestly, it starts with the organization. That's the most important thing. And you look at some of the best and most successful organizations. Usually, it starts at the top with the owner and on down. And so, you look at like the Spurs and you see what they've been able to do over the years, and teams like that where it just starts at the top and they just have this way of doing business that works. And I think the Jazz are one of those teams where they've always had good ownership. They just finally sold after, you know, over 30 years of the same owner and ownership group, and they got a really good one now. So I think that's kind of where it starts, but it's also in the locker room. You got to have the right guys, the right fit, and then guys got to like each other. A lot of time there's guys that just really don't get along, and it's gonna be hard to have a good chemistry.
Isn't that nuts? I mean, I've only done high school coaching, and I haven't been to near the levels that you've been at. But it is amazing, those teams that seem to have success and sustained success are the ones that, man, they can just stand being around each other day in, day out. Not always best friends.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
nuts.
tough. I mean, anytime you see, I mean, when you're on a basketball team, especially an NBA team, I mean, there's 6, 7, 8 months, depending on how far you go, where you see you see those guys every single day. I mean, even off days, you're still coming in for treatment, and you might come in and get a workout. I mean, there's of course, there's days off where you don't see anybody, but for the most part, you're seeing somebody 6 days a week.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. What are some of the best? Who are some of the best player leaders that you were able to be around, and besides, not just who they are, but man, one or two things that made you appreciate them in the locker room or on the team?
Well, I think first is LeBron, and I only played with him, on an NBA team for 5 months. So, but just in that 5 months, you just see what how special he is as a leader, how smart he is, how his IQ is off the charts.
Wow.
And so I think he would be, up there with anybody that I've played with or against. Other than him, I would say Kevin Garnett. He's just one of those guys that just brings so much passion and energy. Even, I played with him later in his career, when he wasn't the 20 and 5 guy, but he still brought it every day. There was days where you could just tell his body was hurting, because he was almost 40 years old, and you'd have to tell him to get off the practice court. You know what I mean? And he would be pissed about it. And so, I think there's something to say about that, where, a guy that's put in the body of work that he had put in at his age, he could afford to take days off, or, people would understand if he was sitting out of practice, but that's not who he was.
I think you nailed it right there. I mean, it's really cool to see or hear stories about these legendary players that even when their bodies are fading, that drive to be successful and to still be great players, and the work is still there. As your career went, so when you're young, I mean, I can kind of remember what it was like to be young. Your body feels great. You can just do things. You get some dings here and there, but you rebound really quick. What were some things you learned in your journey as a player that you wish you would have been doing early on, like either body, nutrition, training, anything like that?
Yeah, so it's funny because when I first got to Utah, my first year, Matt Harpring was there, and he was probably, I think he was like, I want to say like 33, 34, and he had played some years, and, he had some knee issues when I got there. He was having some swelling and draining, and he was always icing and always getting in the cold tub before, after. And I'm just making fun of him, calling him old, thinking it's funny. It was way too soon, because by the time I was about 28, I was already feeling it and wishing I would have, picked up on some of those things earlier in my career, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you hear about, I think it's LeBron does $1 million a year, $1.5 million a year, just on his body. Any specific things later on in your career that You just every day this was my ritual or what something you went to.
Yeah, I mean, I was towards the end of my career, I was pretty injury prone and was dealing with a lot of different things, and so, man, I was getting treatment all the time. I mean, I had Normatex and game readies, and you know, I was always coming in. I was going in early. I was staying late. I was getting massages and physical therapy all the time, and I was trying to do all the things to try to maintain. But I think LeBron has found a science with it,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think he's very, like you said. I mean, when you're spending $1 million, you're gonna have you're gonna have you know that's a lot of money to be spending on your body, and you have people, some really smart people around you, obviously, that know how to keep you playing and keep you healthy. Because I mean, look at him; he's for the most part, he hasn't missed many games in his
No,
career.
he's still going pretty strong. So you don't have
Yeah,
a cryo chamber at your house that you go in every day?
I don't. We have them with the teams, but
Yeah.
yeah,
What's toughest part or moment in your pro career?
probably when I was in Brooklyn. Just I was dealing with a bunch of ankle injuries. My ankles, like after games, I had synovitis, where my ankles were just
Mm.
like swelling like crazy. And after every game is like I could barely walk. Couldn't play with my kids the way I was, used to. Couldn't have fun. I was playing bad because I didn't have any lift. I just couldn't do the same things um that I was used to doing, and of course, you know, I was on a max contract, so the expectations were there and I wasn't producing. So for me, it was just the first time where I started doubting myself,
Wow.
and so that was probably the lowest point of my career. Where things were just, pretty tough.
Man, a player in your level. I mean, you've been a winner everywhere that you've been. You're an Olympian. I think at that point,
Hmm.
right? What did you do? So confidence is such a huge thing, and you see it in every sport. You see it in every level of your life. That confidence can you have your peaks and valleys. In that valley, what were some things you did to protect your confidence?
I just one leaned on God, prayed a lot, and I had a lot of good people around me. I think that kept things positive, and you know, and of course, I think one of the most important things is my kids. That unconditional love
Yeah,
they have for you.
it didn't matter how many points you scored, right? When you went home
Yeah,
and you
to
saw
them,
them.
they don't care. So
Yeah.
that definitely helped me get through.
Yeah, having that balance and being grounded. There are some times where high school comes up and they ask me where I played. I say the Colony, and a lot of times your name comes up, that team that we had and everything. But I always tell a story of just you and in pickup. If I had to choose, because a lot of people in DFW know the name Bracy Wright also, and the cool dynamic that you guys had back in the day. But people, I'll tell them if I had to choose, if I was choosing my team, I would pick you every time, and that's not a slight on Bracy, but what I always loved about you was your fight, your fire, and the fact that you hated to lose. So, like, I felt if I had you on my team for pickup that day, we might play for a long time. I can't
Hmm.
imagine at the point in your career where your ankles are hurting and that fight and that fire is still there to be excellent, how hard that must have been for you.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, honestly, I stopped loving basketball for a while.
Yeah.
It was just mentally tough to have those just like reoccurring injuries and just feel. It's kind of like you lose a little hope. You feel like, oh, this is always going to be this way. That just self doubt starts to creep in,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's hard to shake. It's hard to shake, especially in the middle of a season.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not like you're at the rec, the Colony rec where nobody's watching you play. You
Yeah.
got millions in expectations. So I'm curious about this because my career was short. You played for a long, long time, and so the love of the game for me, like I miss playing. I missed that part of it, but I didn't do it for nearly as long as you. It wasn't really a job ever for me. What's your love of the game? Like, where are you kind of right now? A few years, it's out.
So it's funny. So when I stopped playing, I kind of told myself I like hated basketball, right? Like it was like kind of like a mental thing where I didn't watch. Like the first year, I didn't want to watch.
Yeah.
And then the second year, I didn't really watch. It started kind of like playoffs, started watching. And I never stopped loving it. You know, I miss it. I still miss it. I miss competing. I miss being in the locker room. The only thing I don't miss is the travel schedule.
Travel schedule, injuries probably too. Don't miss that.
But, yeah, that's the only thing. But yeah, I definitely miss it.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Biology. What's your BSA score? The Biology Skill Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NIA and NJCAA to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 10-minute, 100-shot test can be taken for free today on the Biology mobile app. Elevate your game. So for these young kids that that I'm coaching and some college, like the individual skill work piece is so huge. But with you in that schedule, like you just talked about, and injuries, having to take care of your body and still trying to be a family guy, I mean, how do you prioritize still getting in the gym and making sure that you're maintaining or even adding to your game as your career goes on?
I think it's important, man. I think I think the guys who have the longest careers and the most success, there's sacrifice involved. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I think you've probably heard LeBron talk about like some of the sacrifice that he's had to endure and does. And obviously, when you're spending as much time as he does and as much money as he has on his body, you're going to be away from your family. You're going, a couple extra hours a day maybe. You're going to miss, certain things. But also, I think they understand, and they're supportive of you, of your family is and the people around you. And so, if you have the right people around you, then it shouldn't be a problem.
What separates? Golly, I can't wait to ask this. What separates the great ones from the rest?
I think one is confidence. Confidence. Once you reach that confidence where you feel like you're the best player on the floor, which I had at one point, I felt, even though, and when I probably wasn't when I went up against Kobe and LeBron and Tim Duncan, but you
had that confidence.
You couldn't tell me that I wasn't going to be the best player on the court that night. That's very key. And then I think that work ethic and sacrifice, I think that's second. I think that's something that I lost, late in my career because of injury. I let injuries get me down, and I let that kind of like, it was almost like a balance. Like I felt like I was getting hurt so much, but I couldn't do this, couldn't do that. But in reality, I probably need to do more, I needed to do more to stay, sharper, to stay healthier. And it probably ended up costing me. So I think those are probably the most important things and the things that separate the good ones from the great ones.
I think a common misconception for younger players is that you just have to grind now, but then when you arrive, it's easy or the work stops. But
no, people will catch up to you real quick if you do that.
Yeah,
because there's always somebody working harder.
That's right. Great point. Here's a question. One more question before the speed round, and this has been burning on my heart and brain. So I go back to the 99 2000 basketball season at the Colony when we were ranked pretty high and got upset in the first round again. I mean, to this day, I know maybe I need to get over it. Maybe I'm just being petty. I don't know. I get a bad feeling in my stomach when I think about it because of, I think, what we could have done. And then what you guys did the year after or 2 years after?
The next year.
Your junior year?
Yeah.
What your senior year? What
we were definitely better. We were definitely better my sophomore year.
Okay, no, hold on. Let me go back. Question, Deron. This has to be, I have to get this. Your sophomore Colony team with myself, Jason Hammock, Brandon Toman, and Bracy Wright, but with you on it for sure. The Deron with you on it, or the team that made it farther in the playoffs your junior and senior year. Which team?
No, we were better for sure our sophomore year. Way better. I don't know what happened.
God, it's a perfect storm.
I also should have been on varsity my freshman year.
Hey, if Coach Thomas was on this, I would have said, heck yeah. I watched you on JV going like, golly, this guy's good.
Yeah.
But you know what I tell people all the time is that one, high school basketball, it should be the most fun that you're ever going to have, because if you do get to go play after, there's just a different feel about it. It's much more about business. It's less about your town and your friends and what you're doing. But then I also tell them that the most fun I ever had playing was that year with you and that team, because golly, just we could do whatever we wanted. It was pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. I honestly, I don't know how we lost in the first round. Yeah.
And remember they that other team, they bleached their hair all blonde. Like, golly, just perfect storm. I played bad, and it's my fault, Darren. I apologize.
All right, we'll take that.
Coaches, the one thing that every team needs is confident shooters. The last 8 years at Grapevine Faith, our teams have averaged 354 made threes each season. I love getting to share with coaches how our shooters train, and more importantly, how they think. If you would like to enhance your shooting culture at your school, contact me directly at jamodipodcast@gmail.com. All right, speed round, and then I'll get you out of here. Easy questions. I get to know you better than I ever did before. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Cookies and cream.
That's good.
Bluebell cookies and cream.
Oh, yeah. For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Shot clock.
Thank you.
Jeez, I don't know how they haven't done that yet.
It's money. Who are they going to get to? Who are they going to pay? Like at public schools, you got to pay somebody to sit there, and pay to actually get it put up. But it needs to happen. There's a lot of states that have it. Be great if Texas did.
Oh, there are states that have it now?
Oh, yeah. There's probably about 13 to 15 states that have it adopted as in high school, and they figured it out. I mean,
yeah, I didn't know that.
You'd think Nike would just pay for it all to have their logo on top of every or somebody. But,
somebody.
Yeah. Texting or talking?
Texting.
Yeah. A lot of people say it depends on who it is. And I like that answer,
Yeah.
But favorite holiday?
Christmas followed by Halloween. It's like they're like neck and neck.
I do. You're a big Halloween guy. I saw what was it? What was the last costume you just had on? You were the wolf?
Bad wolf.
The big bad wolf, yeah. Invisibility or super strength?
Invisibility.
Nice. All right. 3 more. Place you most want to travel. Your favorite place.
Africa. That I've been?
Okay, 2 things. Yeah.
So Africa, I haven't been where I want to go.
Yeah. Favorite
place, probably Anguilla in the Caribbean.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Obviously, I've never been there. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Sometimes 1.
And death water. And death water.
This is my first time having it.
That you're not a sponsor of, but
it's my first time having
liquid. It. Sorry, liquid death, not death water.
Death. I just picked it up earlier. It's the first time having
it. Godfather or Star Wars?
It's not even close. Godfather.
God. Darren,
you would be a Star Wars.
I know. I mean, I don't know if you remember my dad, but obviously we're Star Wars people. Thank you so much for your time. Hopefully I didn't take too much of it, but it was such a blast to get to connect with you again, man.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.